Hello students and a very warm welcome. Today we are going to do a nice thorough revision of the biology chapter on tissues. We'll go through all the important concepts step by step just to make sure you are fully prepared for your exams.
So here's our game plan for this session. We'll start with the very basics. What exactly is a tissue? Then we'll dive into the fascinating world of plant tissues. After that, we'll take a close look at the tissues that make up animals. We're going to pay some special attention to muscular and nervous tissues, and then we'll wrap it all up with a quick summary of all the key points.
So, first things first, what exactly is a tissue? Well, simply put, it's a group of cells that are similar and work together as a single team. You know, in complex multicellular organisms like us humans, or even in plants, different groups of cells get specialized jobs. This is what we call the division of labor, and it's what helps the whole organism work so efficiently.
All right, let's begin with our first major section, plant tissues. Now, just remember, plant tissues are broadly divided into two main types, the growing tissues, which are called meristematic, and the mature, permanent tissues.
Meristematic tissue is really all about growth. You can think of it as the plant's own construction crew, constantly busy, dividing to create new cells. And because of this, you'll only find this tissue in the specific growing parts of a plant, like the very tips of roots and shoots.
Now have a look at this diagram. It shows the three types of meristems. Right at the tip of the stem and the root, you have the apical meristem. This helps the plant grow taller. Then there's the lateral meristem, which increases the plant's width, or what we call its girth. And finally, you have the intercalary meristem, which you'll find near the nodes. Those are the points where leaves grow from, and it helps in the growth of those leaves and branches. So, a good question is, what happens to all the new cells that are made by the meristematic tissue? Well, they grow, they mature, and they eventually take on a very specific job. This whole process is called differentiation. Once a cell differentiates, it loses its ability to divide and becomes a part of the permanent tissue. Now, this table is an absolute must-know for your exams. It's a comparison of the three types of simple permanent tissues. Just notice the key differences here. Parenchyma has very thin walls, and its main job is to store food. Collenchyma has its corners thickened to give flexibility. And sclerenchyma cells, well, they are dead, and they have super thick walls made of lignin. That's a hard, rigid substance that gives the plant strength. Think about the hard shell of a coconut. That's sclerenchyma. You know, the outer protective skin of a plant is called the epidermis, and it has these tiny little pores called stomata, which are used for gas exchange. Now, apart from these simple tissues, plants also have complex tissues. The main thing you have to remember about them is that they are made of more than one type of cell, all working together like a transport system. The two you absolutely must know are xylem and phloem.
Okay, this slide is very important. It clearly shows the differences between xylem and phloem. And let me tell you, this comparison is a very, very common exam question. Xylem transports water and minerals only in one direction, upwards, and it's mostly made of dead cells. Phloem, on the other hand, transports food in both directions, and it consists mainly of living cells. Please, make a note of this.
All right, let's switch gears now and move on to animal tissues. In animals, we generally have four main types: epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissue. We'll revise each one. So epithelial tissue is basically the covering or protective tissue, and we classify them based on the shape of the cells. Squamous cells are thin and flat, like the ones lining our mouth. Cuboidal cells are cube-shaped, and you'll find them in kidney tubules. Columnar are tall and pillar-like, lining the intestine. And when these cells are arranged in many layers for protection, like our skin, it's called stratified squamous epithelium.
As the name itself suggests, connective tissue, well, it connects and supports different parts of the body. One key feature to remember is that its cells are loosely packed in a substance we call the intercellular matrix. The best way to imagine it is like fruits in a jelly. The fruits are the cells, and the jelly is the matrix. Blood, bone, and cartilage are all examples of this type of tissue.
Okay, now, I want you to pay very close attention here. This is a very common point of confusion, and it's a favorite question for examiners. A tendon connects muscle to bone. A nice way to remember this is MTB, muscle, tendon, bone. A ligament, on the other hand, connects bone to bone. Ligaments are also much more elastic and flexible when you compare them to tendons. We are now at our final two types of animal tissues. First up is muscular tissue, which of course helps us move.
And then we have nervous tissue, which is like the body's control and communication network.
On the left side, you can see the striated muscles. These are the muscles in our arms and legs that we can control whenever we want to. That's why we call them voluntary muscles. Now, on the right, you see smooth muscles. These are found in places like our intestine or our blood vessels. We can't consciously control their movement, so they are called involuntary.
Now, the third type is very, very special. It's cardiac muscle, and it's found only in the heart. It's involuntary, and you can see its cells are branched. These muscles work in a perfect rhythm, contracting and relaxing continuously without ever getting tired for our entire lives. Amazing, isn't it?
This table here is a perfect summary for revising all the muscle tissues. It compares them based on their key features. For example, just notice how both cardiac and smooth muscles are involuntary, but only cardiac muscle has those striations, or bands, just like skeletal muscle does. This is a great tool to use just before an exam for a quick recap.
And finally, we have nervous tissue. The cells of this tissue are highly specialized to receive stimuli and transmit signals very quickly from one part of the body to another. Our brain, our spinal cord, and all our nerves are composed of nervous tissue.
The specialized cell of nervous tissue is called a neuron. And let me flag this for you. The diagram of a neuron is extremely important for your exams. You must practice drawing it neatly and labeling all its parts correctly: the cell body, the dendrites which receive the signals, and the long axon which transmits them.
All right, we have covered a lot of ground today. Now, for a final recap, let's just quickly go over the most critical keywords from this chapter just to lock them into our memory.
So as you look at this list, just ask yourself, can you explain the difference between meristematic and permanent tissue? Can you recall the three types of simple permanent tissues? What about comparing xylem and phloem, or the difference between a tendon and a ligament? And finally, can you describe the three types of muscle and the structure of a neuron? If you can confidently answer these, you are in great shape.
Now that this revision is fresh in your mind, I really encourage you to open your textbook right now and try solving the questions at the end of the chapter. Trust me, this is the best way to solidify your understanding and to build your confidence for your exams. All the best!